Hey guys, welcome back. BDC Care here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is for the week of April 21st, 2022. Getting into it, the current character challenge is Raven Prime. That is a 1 week repeat, and by Prime, for anyone who doesn't know, we just mean the no universe Raven. There's no sort of prefix on it. And the required characters for that are Wonder Woman, Nightwing, and Flash, who you can get as low as silver, bronze, and all in the store. Mm-hmm. So not bad for newer players. You probably, if you have the stats to beat the challenge, you have the money to buy a silver and 2 bronzes directly from the store, if you don't already have them.
Right.
Her passive is Demonic Rage, which is twice per match. When Raven is below 20% health, she swaps her health with her opponent. Bosses are protected. She has 1,050 attack and 1,000 health. She was last available on the 24th of June, 2021.
Right. So she's got lower stats because she's been around a long time.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty unequivocal that she's still a great card. She was, I think, one of the first who had a passive that affected the game affected the game in a way that changed how people would play.
She changed the meta. You needed to have a strategy for her.
And her health swap passive is still useful. Like I'd say it's probably one of the most useful things in Survivor. It really shines. Mm-hmm. You can see in our video a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago now, on how we beat Survivor, taking advantage of her health swap. So here's the thing. Swapping health makes a huge difference when your opponent's health pool is much bigger than yours. And the key to taking advantage of her passive is making sure her health lands at some point between 0 and 20% in order to trigger it. So the danger is when you're facing somebody who's really more powerful, that one hit could drop you more than 20% of your health and drop you right from not triggering her passive right to nothing, and she gets knocked out.
Mm-hmm. Blocking is really important with her.
Yes. So what you want to do, one of the strategies we used was to make her blocking better, so we had a better control over how much damage we would take to trigger the passive. So she was actually just a little bit of other interesting history. She was one of the characters that didn't have a breakthrough in ages. And now when you can make her Elite 10 and level 60, that makes up for some of the deficiency in her stats, right? Yeah. When you augment her too. She also had multiple combo enders. I think she was one of the first golds to take advantage of combo ender abilities on gears. And despite what her passive says now, she didn't always have a limitation where her passive would not trigger against bosses. So I have a lot of love for this character. She was really useful, but I think outside of Survivor, she's actually much harder to use the better your roster is.
Yeah.
Because you got to find that balance, right? So the best part of her is her health swap passive. Whatever else she's got, that's her biggest contribution. Mm-hmm. And the best scenario for her, if you're going to really make use of it, is for her to take a lot of health from her opponent when it triggers.
Ideally, they're at full health.
Right, because then you get full health. But if the opponent's health is already low, you're not really getting much out of it. Mm-hmm. And I think what makes her seem better, even in the later stages, is that when you face her, and this is one of those fallacies where you value her more because of how much more of a hassle it is to face her.
Yeah.
Because when you face her, hopefully your team is doing way more damage and doing it faster.
Yeah, so you get her down really quick before she's barely hit you at all.
Right. So if you had her on your team instead, if you're using somebody else on your team, or it could even be Raven, where you've got a bunch of damage gears on her. But if you're using somebody on your team doing a lot of damage to the other team and not using her passive, then by the time her passive triggers, you're not getting much. You're not getting much health back. And if you're trying to use your health swap to take down the other team, it takes a lot of time to let her health drop to the target zone. And man, that would really suck if you ended up missing that little sort of window, right?
Yeah. So it feels really cool, and when you use it well, it always feels kind of satisfying to watch somebody's health melt away despite the fact that they've just been wailing on you.
Right.
But it takes long enough that the shine wears off that apple pretty fast if you're using it as a consistent gameplay strategy.
Right. So early on, when you've got a not big roster, if you're playing the game early on, this is a really important character to get because of how much of a difference it can make in fights when you're fighting higher level guys.
Yeah.
When you become a higher level guy, then she's not nearly as advantageous.
Yeah, so thank goodness that it's a little bit easier for newer players to get her, because by the time you're laid in, you've blitzed past a lot of her usefulness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we've had 2 complete runs of a 43-week cycle that first appeared in May of 2020. We are on the 100th week total, which means that we're 14 weeks into the 3rd cycle.
Right.
If the pattern holds, we expect Earth 2 Solomon Grundy to be the next character.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And still, 23. So that 43-week cycle is still missing 23 challenge characters.
Mm-hmm. This week's multiplayer reward is kind of crummy. It's the thing we love to hate. It's the militarized Batmobile.
Right.
Which is the worst legendary gear. The legendary gear that feels like it really should not be considered a legendary gear.
Right, right.
And so its abilities are a 25% max health increase, a Batman-specific ability, which is 20% super move damage increase, and instead of repeating it twice, the last 2 are also Batman-specific abilities, which has 100% area effect. Opponent's team takes 25% damage from your super move, and the last ability, which is 100% 5-second invulnerability after your super move is activated.
Right.
It was last available on the 16th of September 2021. We've had 2 complete cycles of a 31 reward sequence. We are the 6th week in our new cycle. So it's been 68 weeks in a row, basically,
right.
Of the pattern holding. Next week is Blackest Night Doomsday.
And multiplayer, in contrast to challenge, is missing nothing.
Yeah.
So you touched on it, right? The problems with this legendary gear. Out of 4 abilities after you've evolved it, there's only 1 ability that is not for Batman. So it's a Batman-specific gear.
Yeah.
Health boost is 25%. There's lots of other gears that give more. Brandish and Jado's 40%. Batman's helmet is 40%. And that's also Batman gear. Fourth World Chestplate is 40%. All 3 of the Batman effects are tied to a super, which very seldom comes into play if you're playing it right. Because if you're trying to do it, you get it maybe once a fight. Basic attacks and Special 1 and Special 2 would come into play so many more times.
Yeah.
Special 2, per power bar, you're doing way more damage because it can at least crit. And back in the day, it made more sense when the super move was something you couldn't block.
Yeah.
But now the damage can be reduced on both sides. So chances are you're not getting nearly as much damage. In fact, I think there's some characters who would do more Special 1 damage than a super damage, even when you
unblocked
boost
compared to block.
Yeah, even if you're giving a 25, how much percent boost?
20%.
20% boost and 25% splash damage. That's not a lot.
No.
Yeah, and so it's not great. It was when they introduced multiplayer that the mechanic for supers changed.
Mm-hmm.
So
and yeah, instead of needing to block it, right, and take reduced damage, you would get an instant mini game bar that happened no matter what, which could up to basically cut the damage in half, right?
Right. And the invulnerability 5 seconds, it's not enough. Can't even build up a bar of power on that.
Mm-hmm.
Astro Harness's invulnerability lasts longer. I think John Stewart Green Lantern's invulnerability lasts about as long.
Yeah. So
it really is not. It's not useful in a way. I mean, it's annoying when you're facing it, but it's not that useful.
Mm.
If the real problem is that, if you had unlimited slots for gear, it's okay. You toss it on. You don't. So there's so many other gears, even lower star gears, that would be better.
That would be cool if there was a gear with the ability that it would open up an extra gear slot. That it was like Batman's utility belt or something, and one of its abilities was that it would give you an extra gear slot so that it didn't take up one.
So what's that dungeon card game?
You're thinking of Munchkin, and you're thinking of the cheat cards that let you take up an extra card.
Yeah, so it gives you carry extra gear, one more piece of equipment.
I was specifically thinking about that too when you said it. Yeah. Anyways. So moving on to what's in the store, we have the Earth 2 Solomon Grundy pack for $24.99 Canadian. It's a clue for the fact that we're getting Earth 2 Solomon Grundy next week in the challenge, but it doesn't give you any extra credits. It doesn't unlock in the store. It's pretty much the worst deal out of any pack.
Most expensive, because usually for $25 Canadian, you're getting some credits for it, but not this time.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we have not getting credits, but just speaking of a different pack for the same price. We have the Gotham Gold pack for $24.99 Canadian. It was actually a little more expensive when we saw it all the way back in December of 2020 for $26.99, but it's been $24.99 since the 18th of March 2021. We've seen it a couple times.
Right. Oh, and I guess it's perfectly fitting that in a week where we have what's arguably the worst multiplayer reward, the worst piece of gear.
Yeah.
We also have the worst paid pack. This Gotham Gold pack gives you 3 characters that are all in the store. It gives you 2 low stat golds, Bane and Insurgency Joker.
And the third one
is not even gold, it's silver. So it's a Gotham Gold pack, not because they're all golds, it's because there are golds in it.
Yeah.
So, and what the biggest tease is, it's got that little eye to tell you, when you look at it to see what the percentages of each. And usually when you get 3 specific cards, they just list the 3 specific cards. But no, you have to click on the eye to realize, oh, this pack is really not worth it.
Yeah, they want to hide from you. They want to obscure what you're getting when you pay for it. Yeah. We also have in the store the Survivor pack, which has been around for 15 weeks. Credit pack, thankfully. The Character Bundle Batman Universe pack, which has been around for 20 weeks. The Most Wanted pack, which has been hanging around for 27 weeks. And then we have all 3 Celebration packs, those 300 Nth Metal packs for the Joker, Aquaman, and Shazam. As that cycle has been blown up for a while now. For 13 weeks, it's been blown up.
Yeah, and it looks like Aquaman's still staying ahead. He's the old man of the group because he's been around an extra couple more weeks.
Yeah, an extra 2. In our Survivor, we have the LexCorp gear set until the 4th of March, 2022.
May?
Oh, 4th of May, sorry. March.
It's an M month.
Yeah. Phantom Zone has 1 more week.
Yeah, despite what it shows in our video, I just haven't had time to reset the Phantom Zone because I'm working on the second account.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've got bonus XP for Easter long.
Oh, we had
that. That was last weekend.
Last weekend, yeah.
Yeah. Fight 62 is still broken. Last weekend's breakthrough was Zatanna, Flash, and Solomon Grundy, so this coming weekends should be Raven, Superman, and the Arkham Knight. And if you want to check out the breakthrough cycle for yourself, we have a link in the description to a Reddit thread from Devlin16.
Yeah. And so there's no change in the glitches. That's not even a spoiler. You don't even need a spoiler because we're saying that so that we don't go through all the details in weeks where there's nothing new. If you want to hear the details, go back to April the 7th. And we're just going to do that once a month instead of every week, unless something changes. But just the one thing that's worth mentioning and testing is that the challenge reset glitch was confirmed to be working on Android 9 for Raven's challenge.
Mm-hmm. So there we go. That's it for the content this week. To finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to all the lovely folks who support us on Patreon.
That would be BomboBen, Console Peasant, and Edwoon, the top tier last word. Sinemac and Mohammed Albshaiti at Your Message Here tier. Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin Ruiz, Eddydoo, and Hoshi127 at the credited level, and Chris Wolff, Scarlet, Dani, Awesomegamer 2for1, Pavu RS, Gavin, Mallott, and Isfar at the gratitude level.
Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you next time. Komoda.